Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of In the Corner. I'm Cash. Today we have episode 120, and we got a pretty good day of fights coming up tomorrow. Two cards, no overlap between them, which we love. First one is going to be in Germany, headlined by Agit Kabayel's homecoming against Damian Knyba for the WBC Interim Heavyweight Championship, and then we're going to head over to Brooklyn, New York. For Puerto Rico versus the UK's, we're going to have Subriel Matias defending his WBC Super Lightweight World Championship against Dalton Smith. So two good cards with important main events that I'm looking forward to. Should be a good day of action. We got a lot of other news to talk about. Naoya Inoue's next fight and what his 2026 is going to look like. Dmitry Bivol, the launch of Zuffa Boxing. Finally found out when we're having that first event and who's going to headline it. Let's jump into all of it, and let's start with the big fight this weekend, the bigger fight this weekend. That is Subriel Matias, Dalton Smith. And I'm pretty excited for this. Obviously, a lot of the talk around this fight has been more about the promotion, and the event is not selling well. I mean, if you look at the ticket maps, I mean, the Barclays Center is like a, 20,000 seat arena, and it looks like they have pretty much the entire arena on sale. They've sold, by the looks of it, my estimate would be under 2,000 tickets from the look of the seat map. I'm guessing that'll hopefully go up a lot tomorrow. And I mean, at the weigh-in, I watched a bit of it, and Subriel Matias seemed to have a very big and lively crowd there. So I hope that a fair amount of Puerto Ricans do show up and show their support, and even maybe some Brits will show up in New York. I don't know, but I hope there's a decent crowd because it is a great fight. And the other issue is that it's on pay-per-view. It's like a $55 pay-per-view on pay-per-view.com. Not at all how you want to sell fights like this. And that's because Matchroom didn't get the purse bid. They didn't pay enough for the purse bid. They got outbid by Fresh Productions, which does not have a broadcaster. They're a much smaller promoter. I think they put on a pretty good card here, though. Obviously, we found out yesterday that have lost what was going to be the co-main event between Alfredo Santiago and Henry Cedeño. Santiago is very highly ranked with WBO. I mean, he may even be number one. So he's really close to a world title shot, potentially against the winner versus Tiafimo and Shakur. And, I mean, that's that was going to be an important fight. I thought that was a great matchup, like a close to a 50-50 fight. Definitely the best fight on the undercard. Found out, I believe, that it was Cedeño who had it was either illnesses or visa issues. In fact, I think it was illness. I think that he was, just, I don't know what happened. He just got sick right before the fight, so that got canceled. We've still got 5 fights on that pay-per-view. With the main event, we're going to talk about it. Subriel Matias, Dalton Smith. Who do I have winning? This is a really competitive fight, I think, because I do think that Dalton Smith is a very good boxer. I think he's a really good fighter. I think he's really exciting to watch. He's got pop. He's a strong fighter. He's got a lot of power. And what's the thing about Subriel Matias we've always talked about is he has game-changing power. He's almost like Deontay Wilder of those lower divisions, where if you can make it to the end of the fight with him, you got a pretty good chance of beating him. If you don't, you're screwed. And if you look at his fights, he has I think he's 23-2 or 24-2, something like that, where all but one of his wins have come by stoppage. His only 2 losses come by decision. And his last fight was the first ever decision that he had won against Alberto Puello, a very close fight, a fight of the year candidate that, I don't know, I kind of had Puello edging the fight, I thought, but it was super close. In fact, I believe the WBC has said that the winner of this fight will be ordered to fight Alberto Puello, which I don't hate because I do feel Puello does deserve a rematch against Matias. In fact, I was pretty surprised when we went ahead with ordering Matias versus Smith because I thought that Puello deserved to get an immediate rematch versus Matias because of how close the fight and how good of a fight it was. But regardless, here we are, still a good fight. I think Smith may, on his best day, be a better boxer than Matias, but it really is just a question of, is he going to be able to hang in there with a world-level guy? He's never faced anyone close to the level of Matias, and Matias isn't even like an Alberto Puello, who Alberto Puello may outbox you, but Matias is going to hurt you. He's going to come after you. From round one, it's going to be all action, and yeah, I am very much excited for this fight. As for my prediction, I can see Dalton Smith figuring out a way and winning, and if Dalton Smith wins it, it is by decision, because Matias can take a punch, and I think that Smith may take the Liam Paro blueprint, because Liam Parr found a way to completely outbox and neutralize and honestly dominate Subriel Matias in June 2024. And I think that if Smith can follow that game plan and he can, show what he's been cracked up to be in the UK for so long, he's got a good chance of winning this. But I have to side with Subriel Matias just because he's been there before. And like I said, he is such a dangerous fighter. I don't know if he stops Dalton Smith. I think there's a potential. I think Dalton Smith has appeared to be a pretty tough guy, but I just have to side with Subriel Matias here just because he's been those 12 rounds and he's done those hard rounds, and he is a dangerous man. He's a tough out. In fact, I think Dalton Smith, you think about, that Matchroom was wanting Alberto Puello to beat Subriel Matias. One, because it's awkward, between Eddie Hearn and Subriel Matias, I'm sure. But two, because Matias is a dangerous fight, Not to say Puello isn't, but Matias really is. There is, of course, also the PED thing. Matias got popped for PEDs in the build-up to this fight. We thought, okay, fight's going to be off. Like, there's no way it's going to go on. Matias is likely to be stripped. The WBC, the New York State Athletic Commission, say, nope, it's okay. The show can go on. And we move on like nothing ever happened, which a lot of people are very upset about. Matias, his B sample, I believe it did come up. I don't think it was empty of Osterine, but it was at the limit where he was allowed to still fight. And so he's just saying, oh, no, it's just contamination. I'm not a cheat. And, I mean, so he's allowed to fight. But look, we're either going to see, Matias still have a lot of firepower that seems unnatural, or we're going to see Matias come into this fight and not look as powerful as he usually does. And then it's going to bring up a lot of those questionable performances and wins against guys like Alberto Puello. We're going to have to look back at those. So we'll see. I'm picking Matias. We'll see if he seems drugged up and juiced up or not, but I'm picking him to beat Dalton Smith, but just narrowly. It really is either man's fight. So obviously, Matias wins. You got the Puello rematch. You got lots of good fights for him at 140. Smith wins. The Adam Azim fights makes a ton of sense if he gets through Gustavo Lemos on January 31st. That is a fight we've all wanted to see. It would now finally be for a world championship. They can stop ducking, saying, oh, we don't want to fight until it's marinated for a world title. It would have to be now. That undercard, not bad. Obviously, we talked about it. We lost Santiago versus Cedeno. As for the rest of the card, I think it's a pretty solid one. The new co-main event is now going to be Emmanuel Rodriguez, former world champion. He's going to be making his return to the ring, facing Fernando Diaz. I see this as kind of a nice, road back to a title win for Manny Rodriguez. I see him getting through it now without too much difficulty. Same goes for Javier Cintron. He's obviously a pretty highly ranked bantamweight right now. He's got Victor Sandoval in front of him, who is a late notice replacement opponent. So again, I see him getting the win, and then I also see Nestor Bravo, who's on his comeback from his first loss to Zolisani and on Henny last year. He's going to be fighting Pedro Campa, again, another light touch. I don't want to say light touch because these guys do have the potential to be, some tough challenges, but I see this really as like a setup for a lot of Puerto Rican fighters on the undercard in these 10 rounders. And you're also going to have Keith Colon kicking off the main card with his 9th professional fight over 8 rounds. I think that may be his first 8 rounder. So solid card. Then we head over to Germany. We've got Agit Kabayel defending his WBC interim heavyweight championship against Damian Knyba. Look, I think that Knyba, I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's just Knyba. I'm going to say Knyba. Knyba, he's 17-0. He's an okay heavyweight prospect. He's never really impressed me. He's always just kind of been a big, stiff idiot. I don't want to call him an idiot, but, like Fury's, famous little quote, you big, stiff idiot. He's just kind of just large and just kind of stands there, and I don't know. He's just never really impressed me. He's just somebody who's just, his size has always just gotten the job done for him. You look at Kabayel, who's far more experienced, who's fought at a far higher level, and who's stopped guys like Zhilei Zhang, Frank Sanchez, Arsenbek Makhmudov. He's wins over guys like Derek Chisora. I mean, Kabayel is the real deal. I think that he is probably the second best heavyweight in the world right now. He's worked his way all the way up to that with guys like Dubois, Wardley, Fury, AJ, Parker, kind of. Actually, I wouldn't say Wardley because he's also worked his way up, but other of those guys kind of falling down the rankings or falling out of them due to inactivity. Wardley and him have crawled the way up. You can debate about who's number 2 between those two. I think it's probably still Kabayel. And I think Kabayel gets the win here inside the distance. He's on a 5-fight KO streak. I think that extends to 6 tomorrow. Not even really much to say about it. I just think the Knyba is way overmatched. I'm actually very disappointed in the matchmaking in this fight because, like I said, Kabayel is one of the best heavyweights in the world. He's fighting someone outside the top 20. It just doesn't make any sense. So hopefully after this, they get him a really big fight. Maybe he even gets Usyk this year after Usyk fights Wilder, if that's still going to happen. We will see, but I definitely think he's due his world title shot soon enough. As for that undercard, it's not bad. You're going to have Jadier Herrera fighting Ricardo Nunes. That is for the WBC Interim Lightweight Championship, so 2 WBC interim titles. The winner of this fight will be made mandatory for the title that Shakur Stevenson currently holds. I suspect if Shakur does beat Teofimo on January 31st, as I expect him to do so, I think there is a very good chance he'll just stay at 140. He's not going to be the biggest 140 pounder. He still makes 135 very comfortably. So there's a really good chance he is just going to come back down to 135. But should he choose to stay at 140, the winner of this will be elevated to full world champion. And if not, they'll fight Shakur. So it's a really, really important fight for that division and for either of these guys' careers. This one was ordered mainly because this fight was already being negotiated. Jadier Herrera has been very, very impressive to me so far, 17-0. Most of his wins come by knockout. I am a little bit surprised he's already fighting for an interim world title. I didn't think he was at that level quite yet, but we'll take it. Ricardo Nunes is a guy who's definitely very battle-tested, but, just looking on his box rec, he's lost 3 of his last 6. I would be very surprised if he manages to beat Herrera. I expect Herrera to win, likely inside the distance. This to be his kind of his breakout fight, and then he is really at the top table of lightweight. A lot of big fights coming his ways, out of nowhere. Honestly, he's already, he's just at the top now, and very big fight for him. And I expect him to get the job done. And we'll see what's on the other side of the rainbow. Even if it's not Shakur, a lot of good fights at 135. A lot of these new guard coming in like Abdullah Mason, Floyd Schofield, Raymond Murataya. Lots of good matchups. So we'll see what happens in the new year. Also on the card, you're going to have a big heavyweight IBF international fight between 2 German and a Croatian. Granit Xhalla, hometown fighter, versus Peter Milas. Both these guys have 1 loss, but 18-1 versus 19-1. This is on the main card. It's actually the co-main event. That should be a pretty fun scrap. Gleb Bakshi versus Juan Jose Rodriguez Duran, a 10-round middleweight fight, 6-0 versus 21-1. Again, I don't know a lot about these fighters, but they should be interesting. And then you got some prospects back, like Nelvi Tiafok making his 3rd professional outing. He is the MVP fighter, but German hometown. He's going to be fighting on this card. Last week they had MVP Yandia Lozano on their card in Puerto Rico, so it seems like they kind of did like a swap. But yeah, Nelvi Tiafok, very impressive heavyweight prospect. Expect him to get another early stoppage. Roman Fury as well as on this card. I don't know if he's as impressive as Tiafok, but he's on the main card as well. You got some other fights like Oronzo Berardi is back. Kevin Saszik versus Robin Och, 19-0 heavyweight versus an 8-1 heavyweight. I think that this one, these 2 guys are both German. That I think is headlining the prelims. Nelson Burchall is back on this card, so some decent fights. I'm looking forward to it. I think it should be a fun day. And if this is a really good advertisement for German boxing, then we've got another country that Queensberry will be in, another country that we're going to get a lot of big events in. And with guys like Agit, Kabayel, and Abbas Baru, really at the top of their divisions right now, German boxing could see a return similar to when the Klitschko's were fighting there all the time. So we will see what happens with this event. We were meant to have David Adelaide on the card. It was announced he'd be on it, and then for whatever reason he's just not on it. That's now 2 fights in the past month that he is meant to be fight on, and then he doesn't. He was meant to fight Patrick Corte in Nigeria last month, and then that just didn't happen. No explanation. Then he's announced this week to be returning, and now he's not. Really unsure what's going on with him. Hope Queensberry can get him a fight soon and stop just dilly-dallying him, having him set up for these meaningless fights, and then he doesn't even get to fight them. All right, let's move on from there. Let's talk about some news, and we're going to start with Naoya Inoue. So it was reported earlier this week that it wasn't actually reported, but just straight up said that Naoya Inoue, Junto Nakatani, is expected to be May 5th at the Tokyo Dome. We expected it was going to be that weekend. I think everyone was saying May 3rd, that Sunday. It's actually going to be a Tuesday is what we're hearing now. I do think the deal is pretty much already done. I'm glad it's going to be at the Tokyo Dome and not even just an arena in Japan. We know Turkey is probably behind this, and he loves doing his stadium fights. This is probably the biggest fight in Japanese history. It absolutely should take place at the Tokyo Dome in front of as many people as possible. And it's going to be a really, really big event. So, I'm looking forward to it. The only thing that's really curious to me about this is after Nakatani's not great win against Sebastian Hernandez, very controversial, it kind of seems like Ring Magazine and a lot of other people are now starting to talk about Inoue Bam a lot more. And I was thinking, I'm like, I feel like every time in boxing that we get a big fight, we're always thinking about what is the next big fight. Always thinking about, but the one after is going to be even bigger. And for the past year, 2 years, all we've been talking about is Inoue versus Nakatani. That's been the big one. And Inoue Bam has been like a fantasy fight. But now that Inoue Bam seems a little bit more likely, both sides say they kind of want to do it. They're not too far apart in weight. It kind of seems a little bit more likely. And now that Nakatani Inoue is happening, and we're all just like, okay, yeah, and Nakatani didn't look great in his last fight. People are now much more strongly picking Inoue to beat him. People are starting to talk about, but once we get past this one, then we get the really big fight between Inoue and Bam. And it's usually every single time there's another one that's even bigger. And I kind of just want to be happy about Inoue Nakatani. Inoue's got a very tough test ahead of him in that fight. And Bam, I don't see a lot of need for that fight to happen right now. If it happens eventually, I'd love to see it happen. But they're two divisions apart. They both got a lot of stuff to do. I just don't see the point in rushing into it. But, we'll see what happens. I just think it's kind of interesting that all of a sudden, a lot of talk about Inoue Bam, and I can't see them, positioning this to be Nakatani being the stepping stone. And then after this one, you get the really big one, as we always do in boxing. Dmitry Bivol is apparently planning his return to be in April in Saudi Arabia versus Michael Eifert, is IBF mandatory. We know Bivol, he beat Beterbiev in the rematch. We thought they were going to do an immediate trilogy. Maybe that was going to be in Russia. Then Bivol has to go and undergo elbow surgery, I believe it was, some kind of surgery, maybe his shoulder, I'm not sure. And then once he gets done with that, he's like, oh yeah, then we'll talk about the Beterbiev trilogy. Beterbiev kind of upset. He was going to fight November 22nd on that stacked card, then he doesn't. And now, people are talking about, is Bivol trying to age him out? And now Bivol is like, okay, yeah, I'm back, but I kind of want to tune up before I go in with Beterbiev. And he's not going to take a tune up. He's going to have a mandatory world title defense, but he's not fighting Artur Beterbiev. No disrespect to Eifert. I barely know anything about him. He's been waiting for mandatory for a long time. He does deserve it, but I really see Dmitry Bivol, doing him like he did Malik Zinad, just showing a true difference of levels, and then on to the Beterbiev trilogy or a Benavidez unification matchup for Undisputed. We need to see one of those two fights by the end of 2026, I think, for sure. That's at least what I think. Okay, so Zuffa Boxing. We've been talking about it so much. It's been the biggest story in boxing, I think, or at least the most interesting. But the question has always been, when is the first fight? What is it going to look like? Where's it going to be? Who's going to headline it? We finally have that information. Just today it broke in pieces throughout the day. So we first learned earlier this week that by the Nevada State Athletic Commission that the rumor was true. TKO is going to hold the card January 23rd, the night before the UFC's big debut on Paramount Plus in Las Vegas. They're going to do it at the UFC Apex. And then Zuffa Boxing confirms that today with Z01 is how they have it kind of set up. Zuffa Boxing, number 1. It is going to be the first card they're doing on Paramount, 9 p.m. Eastern, Friday, January 23rd, live from the UFC Apex. Now, just that information alone, 2 weeks away from the fight night, no fights announced, and then Dana White announces it tonight. But just terrible promotion, starting your new business like that. And then a lot of people are upset about them starting at the Apex. I understand why. I actually am not too mad about it because I see this as a prototype. I see this as starting from the ground up, testing it out. Going to have a lot of hiccups in the production, I'm sure. Maybe it'll look great. These guys know what they're doing. But, I'm expecting a slow start. And I think the Apex is actually the perfect place to start something like this. Build it from the ground up. So I'm okay with it. I have no objections to them starting small. And that main event has been announced to be Callum Walsh versus Carlos Ocampo. Callum Walsh has been the only boxer for years that Dana White promoted and, had an investment in. And, a lot of the guys like that who fight on 360, who's on UFC Fight Pass, we assumed are going to be on to Zuffa Boxing. That's what we've heard, is all of them getting signed, like him, like Sergey Boachuk, like Kane Sandoval. Other names like Brandon Adams have been rumored. Guys like Jose Valenzuela have been reported to have joined the team. So, Callum Walsh going to be headlining against Carlos Ocampo. This was a rumored fight. Ocampo, guys fought Spence, Fundora, Zoo. I believe he was knocked out by all those guys, came up short in all those fights, all world title or interim world title fights. And now he's fighting Callum Walsh. And I think Callum Walsh is decent. I think he's a good prospect at 154. I don't know if he ever wins a world title, especially in that division, but I definitely think he should beat Ocampo, maybe even stop him because he is a very big knockout puncher, and that it should be a good fight on January 23rd. I hope it delivers. No undercard yet. I'm expecting that to be announced very soon, as we need it to be announced soon. But yeah, just really happy to have that event finally announced and confirmed. And that's the thing I'm probably maybe looking forward to most in January, is just to see, what does it look like? What does Zuffa Boxing look like? And yeah, so I'm really excited, and I'm curious if it just looks like UFC, the broadcast, or what. But very important this event goes well. Really, really important. And then Boxing Scene said, Lance Pugmire said that they have learned, kind of similar to The Ring has learned, that there will be another card 1 week later. That is what the report is saying, is that just a week later, they're going to stage another event at the Apex probably on Friday, January 30th. Kind of just doing the same thing, testing it out, getting your next event out. Maybe that's the Sergey Bochuk headline fight. I don't know. But I like that they're building out a schedule. And if they are doing it a week later, announce that tomorrow. Please get on it. But I would love if they had a really strong schedule to kick off their 2026 debut year. Jon Jones says that Dana White is not on board for the Alex Pereira fight. I don't know why. I don't know if that's Jon Jones saying he's not on board for that fight for the White House, as we've known that Dana White does not want Jon Jones to fight at the White House as much as Jon Jones wants to. But maybe that's the reason. But I don't understand why they don't want him to fight. The rumor is that Yuri is going to fight Carlos Ulberg for the vacant light heavyweight title at 327 in Miami. And if that's true, then that means Pereira is moving up to heavyweight. And maybe they're trying to match him up with Cyril Gahn or go straight in with Tom Aspinall. I don't know. Unless he's fighting for the title immediately, he should be fighting Jon Jones. Or Jon Jones is fighting Tom Aspinall. Those guys need to be fighting one of each other, those four. There's no other explanation for it. They have to be fighting each other. If Dana White is really just saying no to this for no reason, just to be a stickler, then that's really annoying, because it's a huge fight, and I honestly may prefer that to seeing Jon Jones, Tom Aspinall, or Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira. Ilya Topuria has won his first court battle versus ex-wife. I mean, I don't know. Just reading that, I'm like, this just does not matter to the actual combat sports, but it does, because it means that Ilya's already in court. He's already, going through this really rough situation. And the quicker he does that, the quicker he can get back to the cage. I hope it all works out for him, for his kids, for his ex-wife, just for everyone. I hope that they can all just get this resolved. It does always suck to see a family break up like this, and I hope it's not messy, mainly for the kids' sake, and everything can just get squared away. We can get back to, everybody can get back to doing what they love and not have to, go through this tough time anymore. So we'll see. So the first part of it is over, and we shall see how the rest of it plays out. There's rumors that Jose Armando Resendiz versus Jaime Munguia is in negotiations for Resendiz' recently upgraded WBA super middleweight world title. Now, of course, Munguia was ordered to fight Oslis Iglesias earlier this week. He immediately rejected that because he had other plans. And we found out those other plans because he already had a world title fight in the works, and a much, much easier fight, I think, in Resendiz as is Iglesias. Now, I think Resendiz is still a top 10 super middleweight. I would favor Resendiz to beat Munguia today. However, Oslis Iglesias is another monster. And if I'm Jaime Munguia and you're saying you can fight for this world title or this world title, one of them you fight Iglesias, one of them fight Resendiz, I'm picking Resendiz. So I think Resendiz Munguia is a fantastic fight between two all-action Mexicans. That'd be a war. But I do not blame Munguia for taking this path as opposed to the Iglesias IBF route. So there was some drama earlier this week with Tapology as Micah Morales. 2 earlier fights from his career were added on to his pro record, one of which he had a loss in. And that was the thing, like, oh my gosh, this guy we've been hyping up and stuff is undefeated, no longer is professionally undefeated. And I was going to talk about that, but then Tapology went back and changed their minds and then took out those losses, or that one loss. So really confusing situation. Morales remains, I think, 17-0. The guy is almost going to get a world title shot in the UFC. It's just so odd that they would change it and then go back on it. I don't know. It's just a really weird situation. I don't like the idea of retroactively adding something as professional and considering what's professional and what's not. I feel like it should all be pretty simple in the rules, and defined before the fight if it's a pro fight or not. But MMA is a little bit more wild than boxing is, I guess. But yeah, he'll remain undefeated, officially at least. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so Frank Sanchez, Richard Torres, we heard that there is a deal in place, or they're working on one. It seems like it would be a PBC deal, and that if that deal does get done, it will either land on the Mario Barrios Ryan Garcia pay-per-view that is slated for February 21st, still no announcement on that yet, or the Fundora-Thurman pay-per-view, which apparently is being rescheduled for March. So looks like they're still looking to do that fight. I was hoping it wasn't going to be a main event of its own card and it would be on another stacked PBC event, but it looks like they're just going to keep on doing more pay-per-views, which is whatever. Good fight, I guess, but not really, because Fundora blows out Thurman in like 6 rounds. It's not a good fight. It's a good event. It'll be fun to build up to, but Fundora is a top guy at 154, and Thurman is just beyond his prime. He's not even in the top 10 super welterweight for me. Yeah, I don't really get why they're so adamant on doing this fight. However, Sanchez versus Torres is a really interesting matchup. Sanchez coming off that loss to Kabayel, and Torres, again, taking a huge leap in his career up to world level. It'd be really interesting to see who comes out on top there. And another top-ranked guy going to get to stay active on somebody else's show, because still no TV deal. It's been 6 months. Come on, IRM. Get it together. It's crazy. Okay, so Richardson Hitchens, we were heard that he could possibly return on February 21st, potentially that same card as Barrios Garcia. We don't know if that's a PBC card, if it's a Ring Magazine card. No idea. It seemed like it was PBC, but a lot of random fighters are talking about being on it, so maybe it is a Ring Magazine event. And that would be, that would make sense. Eddie Hearn was saying that Hitchens could be back on February 21st. They've already got 3 shows slated for February, including one on the 21st in the UK, so I don't think it'd be a Matchroom event. I would expect it would be a Riyadh season show that Hitchens is returning on. And in a lot of that, he said that the IBF has ordered Hitchens versus Delgado, Lindolfo Delgado, who won his eliminator fight against Gabriel Goyes Valenzuela in November. He's now been ordered to fight Hitchens. Delgado, he's earned it, I guess. He's won a lot of fights, but if you look at his fights, I think 3 of his last 4 fights, all the ones that were by decision, you can question if he really won them. I don't know if he won any of them. And now he gets a world title shot against Hitchens. It's okay because we know that Hitchens will just light him up. He'll go through him like butter. Hitchens isn't even a guy to stop people. I don't think he stops Delgado, but I think Hitchens beats him soundly. And that's that. But looks like that could be next. Hitchens has not had a lot of fights recently. He's been kind of inactive, so wouldn't surprise me if he does take a little bit of a mandatory. A good guy. Delgado's undefeated, but somebody we all know he's going to beat before he gets in with the big dogs, as we're hearing that he could be doing this year, like Shakur Tiafimo, Keyshawn, guys like that. As for Lewis Crocker, we were hearing that Lewis Crocker could potentially be fighting Conor Walker next in a rematch. Conor Walker had a great win in December over Pat McCormack, big upset. And it seemed like they were like, yeah, we kind of want to get him his world title shot. He's always been a guy who just wanted to be British, but we've seen he's beyond that. He's really good. And he already beat Lewis Crocker for me. I know Crocker beat him officially, but I thought that Conor Walker beat him like 97-93. I thought that he deserved a rematch. And now he can do it for the world title. Look, I think there's guys who are more deserving than Walker. However, I would love to see Walker beat up Crocker and take that belt and see Conor Walker as a world champion, because he's one of my favorite British fighters, and it would be incredible. Now, after that, we find out the IBF is denied Crocker's request to do a voluntary defense in April, and that they are ordering him to go straight in with Liam Paro, who's meant to fight Donovan in an eliminator. Donovan was injured, pulled out. Liam Paro no longer fighting next week in Australia, and he's going to get ordered straight in with Crocker. I'm okay with that too. I also think Liam Paro beats Lewis Crocker, and he'll become a 2-time world champion, which is insane. But Liam Paro, I do think beats Lewis Crocker, and that looks like it's going to be next, and the IBF will not allow any voluntaries, and we're going to go straight into it. So I've actually just seen now that we've got, I wouldn't say breaking news, but live news, and that is that Oscar De La Hoya is going off on Virgil Ortiz's manager, Rick Mirrigan. I got to be honest, I don't know if I've ever heard more about a manager in recent times in boxing than I have with this guy, because he seems to be the real problem why Virgil Ortiz, Jerome Ennis is not happening, or at least not happening right now. Deals not getting made, and that's because they want too much money. He's saying, "Oh, we can go fight Spence, we can go fight him, we can go fight them." Like, he just doesn't seem like he wants to fight Boots next. And apparently, he's been trying to negotiate a deal behind Oscar's back, and Oscar's saying that's not only holding everyone else up, but it's illegal. It's behind against the Ali Act. I'm gonna start sending letters and shit. And it's so weird to me because Oscar's the only manager where I feel he really goes cutthroat with guys who are technically on the same team as him. When you're a fighter, your promoter and your manager are part of your team. They work for you. You all work together. So you don't really see, him do that, but he does it with Ryan Garcia. They have beef too. It's so weird, but him making a public call out like this is crazy. But honestly, I like it because Virgil's manager has done nothing but talk and slow down this fight and try and put in obstacles. And he's the issue. I feel like he's the leading problem why a deal has not been struck yet. And I think that it really just needs to be Oscar, Eddie, you know, Virgil, Boots, Bozy, Robert Garcia, and DAZN that need to do this and leave managers out of it because managers are always the guys who slow it down. Yeah, so we'll see. But I need to see this fight happen, and it's a shame that it's there's so many obstacles, and it seems like it's all stemming from this Rick Mir gym. Speaking of promoters, I guess Pete Murray has departed from the PFL. Now we know the PFL has been going through restructuring. John Martin came in as the new CEO. I have high hopes for him. He seems to get it. He seems to be streamlining and getting rid of the tournaments, just doing the UFC model. It makes way more sense. And like that, Pete Murray was the CEO at the start of the new year, so it only makes sense that he's gone. I know a lot of people were saying that Pete Murray was better than Don Davis. They have different jobs, but they're like, I wish that Don Davis was leaving and not Pete Murray, and I get that. I honestly think in due time he will also be removed. I don't know if Pete Murray's been fired or is departing. Seems like it's maybe not in his control, but I don't know how long Don Davis sticks around for, but I think this is probably all for the better at the moment. We'll see if it's not, but as of right now, I think what I've heard from PFL out of the last 6 months has been better than what I've heard from them over the last few years. So, yeah, I'm okay with this. Let's talk about some updates of some upcoming UFC undercards. Now, there's been a lot of announcements and reports and rumors the last few days. I don't have all of them here. This is just a handful of the ones I'm most interested in. We're going to go from event to event. So, February 21st in Houston, it's been announced that Sergey Spivak will be fighting Ante Delia. That's a pretty good matchup at heavyweight. I think that's top 10, top 12. You'd obviously probably favor Spivak. Maybe. I don't know. He's been on an okay form. And then Delia, he's obviously coming. He was on a good run. And then he had that whole eye poke situation with Waldo Cortez Acosta. That was a tough fight. Waldo Cortez Acosta at the top of the world now. So we'll see. Maybe Delia will get this done, but I think it's a pretty good matchup. Dan Ige is going to be fighting Melchizedek Cost on February 21st as well. I'm rooting for Cost on that one. I think he's probably a bit of a favorite, but that's a good matchup. Should be a fun fight. As for February 28th in Mexico, seems that Macy Chiasson versus Aylin Perez is going to be co-main event. Again, that's a pretty good fight, top 10. March 7th, it's rumored Rob Font is going to be fighting Raul Rosas Jr. This is going to be Rosas getting his shot at a ranked opponent, so big fight. One that you maybe even favor Rosas in. That's a really good matchup. I like it. That would obviously be on the pay-per-view card. Not main card, I'm sure, but still a good, 326 event. And then March 28th in Seattle, Alexa Grasso, Macy Barber 2. It's being rumored or reported to be on that card. That's a good rematch. I like that fight. Grasso needs a win. Both fighters really need a win there. They both, just in terms of moving back up and getting into that top upper echelon of the division, they need a win. And then Tatiana Suarez, Lupe Godinez will be at April 11th at UFC 327. Very important fight for their division at what's it called? Strawweight, yeah. Important fight. Both need a win again, and obviously in every fight, both guys need a win, or both girls or both women need a win. But especially when you get into these top 5, top 10 matchups, it's very important you get the win to advance to the higher level. But yeah, so a lot of good fights on the UFC calendar. I'm just this week, because this drought has been way too long. It's been 6 weeks with no UFC. I'm sure we've had some boxing, but even then it's one event a week. This time we're finally getting 2 cards in 1 week. Haven't had that since like December 20th that weekend. I just need more fights. I need more UFC, and soon enough the drought will be over, and they're gonna go like crazy from January through March. It seems there's just a lot of events and some good fights booked. All right, Manny Pacquiao Promotions, their next U.S. event has been announced for February 28th at the Turning Stone Arena, or Turning Stone Casino and Resort Arena, I guess, in Verona, New York. It's going to be headlined by Elijah Pierce, Lorenzo Parra. Remember, this was meant to headline their debut event in November in California. I think it was Pierce who fell ill at the last moment. Fight gets canceled. Very unfortunate, because I thought that was a really competitive featherweight fight. Now being rebooked. Co-main event looks like it's going to be Bryce Mills, who fights on all these events, fighting Tobias Green, and then also Emmanuel Pacquiao Jr. and Kermel Moton have been confirmed for the card. Pacquiao Jr., very disappointing professional debut. His draw against Brendan Lally, I thought he lost the fight. He really needs to show a good performance on this next event, otherwise it's not going to be good for him. And then As for Kermel Moden, obviously everyone's favorite prospect. He's really, really good and hasn't fought since May 31st, which is actually my birthday, but he hasn't fought since that Caleb Plant, Jamal Charlo card. What has he been doing? Why has he been so inactive? We don't know, but just really good to see he's got another fight booked. I don't understand why he doesn't have a big promoter behind him. I think he's kind of with PBC, kind of not. But yeah, he needs to get a move on and start having more fights because I think he's 8-0. He's been fighting for about 3 years now, and I'm ready to see him and stepped up a bit. Sorry that I keep on bouncing back to this. I'm just seeing more about what Oscar is saying in his collab back video. He's saying that he is demanding a 60-40 split in favor of Virgil Ortiz. I'm not going to lie, if we need the fight to happen, 60-40 is not a bad split. Virgil does kind of have the, he kind of can argue. On the A side here, I've been the guy at 154. You're coming to my division. I'm okay with Ortiz being the A side, even though I think Boots may be a bigger name. But saying that Virgil's other super fight options like Errol Spence in Cowboy Stadium or Fundora in Vegas. Look, I don't know if any of those fights are actually plans as much as they are ideas and wish list fights. Spence hasn't fought in 2.5 years. I don't know if he ever fights again. I would love to see that happen, and Cowboy Stadium makes a ton of sense. 2 Dallas guys. But I don't know if it happens. Then Fundora in Vegas actually do think is quite likely, but again, we haven't been talked about it. He's now also saying that Garcia vs. Barrios is going to be announced on Monday, and that it will be a DAZN and Prime Video pay-per-view in Las Vegas. I've got to think that is going to be a PBC show in that case, but we'll see, man. Just really, really interesting what's going on, and him calling out the manager and for Virgil Ortiz is hilarious. I love it, and yeah, we're gonna see what happens with all this stuff soon, and I just hope that we can get Boots vs. Virgil because that is one of the best fights you can make in the sport today. Matchroom announced that Elif Nur Turhan is going to be fighting Taylor Jensen January 31st in Newcastle, and that she has signed an extension with Matchroom. That's nice to hear. I think that Elif Nur Turhan, she may have been the women's fighter of the year in boxing. She's just been on a terrific run, just knocking out everyone. And yeah, so for her to get a deal extension makes a ton of sense. And going in with Taylor Jensen, I don't expect Jensen to hold much against her at all. I mean, Taylor Jensen lost to Shauna Brown, who got knocked out by Turhan in 1 round. I don't know what she's going to do to Elif Nur Turhan. I know this is a quick fight, only a few weeks away. They're just getting it set up so that she can stay busy, stay active. But I don't know, man. I would have liked to see a little bit of a better fight for Turhan, but excited to see her back so quickly after she won that IBF lightweight title. Let's talk about some undercard announcements for Anthony Cacace, Jazza Dickens. We learned that John O'Carroll and Cole Murphy are going to be fighting for the vacant IBO Super Featherweight World Championship. Obviously, these IBO titles don't mean a whole lot, but it is an important title in the fact that, it's kind of a world title. It's a 12-round fight. You're going to get a decent amount of respect for it. And other fighters, you're going to be – neither of these guys you would think of at all when you're thinking about the 130 landscape. After this, you may be thinking that once they get put on a big card and have a semi-world title under their name. So, again, I'm not sure who wins that as of right now. I'm a bit surprised. Very random fight, especially for an IBO title, but we'll see. Other fighters have been added. Stephen Cairns, Eogan Lavin, Thomas Carty. Obviously, he had his really, really rough injury in March of last year. It's good to see he's back in. And then we've also got Gary Coley back on this card, which is really odd to me. Obviously, I don't know. Like, he was with Matchroom and then losses to guys like Maxie Hughes and such, and just didn't seem to have it as much anymore. It wasn't as he was cracked up to be. Matchroom seems to have let him go, and now he's on a Queensberry show, probably fighting like a 6-rounder. So, good to see that he's back and active again, but I'm not sure where his career goes from here. As for Adam Azim, Gustavo Lemos, their card has also been announced. Greatest Krause has been confirmed. He will be making his return, his boxer debut on that event, which is exciting to see. Hopefully he's on the main card on BBC because he is he's got a very, very bright future. And by the looks of the running order that they posted, the order of the fights on the posy, I think he is going to be co-main event. We'll see if that's an 8 or 10 rounder. Joel Kodua versus Joe Garside. Kodua is staying active on these boxer shows. He's a great fighter, fighting Joe Garside, who's an okay opponent. Hassan Asim, the younger brother of Adam Azim, is also fighting. You've got Archie Sharp back in action on here. So some okay names, not great matchmaking, but we'll take what we can get. And then the last bits and pieces is announced that Jon Jones and Daniel Cormier are going to be fighting each other, or not fighting, but coaching against each other on the Russian ripoff of The Ultimate Fighter, which is just so random. I know that Jon Jones did this against Nate Diaz, but now he's doing it against DC. That would actually be pretty entertaining. So whoever came up with that idea is genius. I bet the pay is pretty good. But yeah, DC's second one of these shows in a row, and yeah, so really interesting. I just wish we could see Jon Jones fight one more time, but also I don't because the guy's a scumbag. Who cares? And then lastly, Alex Pereira and Tracy Cortez have broken up within a week of posting their hard launch. They're dating. I mean, obviously, I don't want to make jokes about somebody else breaking up. Like, it does kind of suck, but it was very short-lived, and it was just such a weird relationship out of nowhere, and then it ended so quickly, and Pereira posted him running in the rain. Like, it was just, what a week to kick off 2026, man. It was hilarious. But that's all I've got for today's episode. Tomorrow, you get Matias Smith and Kabayel Knyba. It's going to be a good day, good fights. Thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy your weekend, and peace out.